Okay, for today's project, we are going to be making one of these, and I got this idea from Art Brut Sessions on WordPress, and it's an Elements of Art and Design card, so that you can see an example of each and every element of design. In order to do this, I bought Strathmore, as you can see on this sticker here. Strathmore 300 series watercolor sheets, 22 inches by 30 inches. And I divided it up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. So that way you have one for each element of art. In your art kit, you should receive a piece of paper talking about the elements of art and the principles of design. We're not going to be going over the principles of design in this project. We're just focusing on the elements of art, which are line, shape, form, value, color, space, and texture. In order to divide this paper up into 7 somewhat equal portions, I had to first measure it, because even though it says 22 by 30, it wasn't exactly 22 inches. So I measured it out and then divided it equally into 7 portions. For this set of paper, each section was about 3 1/8, just a little over 1/8. I put it in between the 1/8 and the 16th right here. If you can see, it's in between those markers. And then I drew the line. Now, a couple tricks about folding paper. I like using a ruler. My favorite tool is a bone folder, but I know most of you are not going to have one of those. So just a plastic ruler will be fine. If it has a metal edge, it might tear the paper. And then you just slightly fold it up like that. I like to make sure that it's as straight as possible by going back over it. And sometimes I will actually use the ruler to fold it down. And you can see that's pretty close to the line. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Art is never perfect. We're just having fun. Maybe it'd be more fun if I talked in an accent. All right, so I'm gonna fold all of those sections over to get a paper like this. Now, if there's a sticker on there, that's fine. We're actually using the other side, so it doesn't really matter. But I want you to figure out which side is your back and which side is your front. I would like my booklet to unfold like this, because in the US we read left to right, so left to right. And so because of that, I know where I want my things to go. The other one you could do is if you want it to lay open flat like this, which is what we're actually doing for this project, just so that way in the library we can set them up like that to show them off, or in your classroom, wherever you're going to be doing it. So I'm going to have this be the front of my paper and the side with the sticker be my back. And on the back, bottom right hand side, you need to sign your artwork. So I'm going to write Mrs. J. And then if you want to write your classroom teacher's name, and then the date. Okay, so don't write Mrs. J, write your name. Then if I flip it over this way, guess what's gonna happen? My name's upside down. So flip it that way. This is gonna be square one. In your kit, you're gonna have a variety of tools and materials. The ones you're going to need first, there will be more shapes than this to choose from, but you need to choose a shape. This is a letter E, and this is a chicken. I'm gonna do the chicken because it's more fun, but if you wanna do the letter E and figure out your name, you could do your name if it's 7 letters, or you could do a different, but I would prefer, it's easier if you just have the same shape each time. and you're going to trace the shape on each square. Don't forget in between. Ta-da! If you want to make it look like the chickens are moving, you can twist it a little bit. I don't know if you're going to be able to finish this project in 1 hour. So what you can do is use our fun art supplies on some of them, and then you can save and do just some of them in between classes or in between assignments if your teacher lets you. We're gonna twist the chicken again. I'm gonna make it go whoop. And it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. I made a mistake. I'm not gonna worry about it. Here it is again. He's going whoop. One more time. Whoop. There it is. Just kidding. Teacher should get that reference. I don't know though, I'm pretty old. So maybe your teacher doesn't know that reference. So see how I'm holding it down while I trace it. Ta-da! Don't throw this away. This is gonna go back with the other ones so that other classes can then use it to do the same thing. All right, so then I'm gonna take my poster and I'm gonna copy these words. I'm gonna say line, shape, form, value, color, space, and texture. In the examples that I showed you earlier, this person did an ice cream. They're in a little bit different order, but it's easier for you probably if you copy the order of this paper. And you can look at the examples. I want you to come up with your own way of showing these different things. So line is a mark on a surface. You can see that describes a shape or an outline. You can use line to create texture. Do you see this thick line right here? Makes it look like this is actually sticking out of the page. Types of line can be actual line, where you're making a mark, implied, so they use the shape actually to make it seem like it's there. You can do vertical, horizontal, diagonal, and contour. You can see that this white right here, now that's not an actual mark that was made, but it's an implied line. So what you're going to do with this one, you can use your pencil, you can use a black marking pen. You should have a set of some colored pencils, so if you could find a black colored pencil, you're welcome to use those. But in this first one, we're going to use lines to create some kind of a design here. So I will work on that and you can watch me work. Watch me while I work. La, 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 la. So first I'm going to outline my chicken, and this is just meant to be a fun, relaxing project. So just to get you used to using these elements of art, and I'm actually going to outline this. But I do want each one to look like a finished work of art. So you're going to have 7 miniature works of art. And that's why I said I don't know if you can all get this done in one period, but your teacher is welcome to check out the art box so y'all can finish it up without the volunteers' help. Or you can use, I know a lot of you will have colored pencils or crayons in your desk. A lot of you can use that as well for that. So the one you might want to focus on today is texture. And here's why. In your art kit, everybody's going to have a few different things. You might have some tissue paper, you might have some string, you might have some sequins, eyeballs, some of you might have bits of fabric. Everybody's going to have some different items to create texture. So what is texture? It's the surface quality of an object. What the heck does that mean? It means the surface quality of an object. What on earth does that mean? It means something that you can experience through touch. So this paper, if you look at it, when you get your paper, it has little bumps on it. That is a bumpy texture versus this kit, which most of your art supplies are going to come in a little kit like this, but this is smooth. These stars right here, those are going to have a pokey or scratchy texture. So in art, you want to use texture to make it more visually interesting. So you could do a physical texture. You can also do implied texture. I don't know if a lot of you have seen paintings where it looks like fabric, or it looks like fur, or it looks like grass. They're trying to make it look the way it feels, even though you know it's just a flat surface of a painting. But for this assignment, let's do actual physical texture. So what I might do is I would grab some of my glue and let's see, maybe I want to outline my chicken with some string. So I'm going to grab my glue. My glue will work. Now, see how I'm just using a nice thin line? I'm not making a huge pile of glue on there. Now I'm going to close my glue stick. I'm going to use it to kind of pull the glue in, because thick glue takes a long time to dry, especially here in the Pacific Northwest where we live, because there's a lot of moisture or water in the air. And so, you know, moisture likes to go from an area of high moisture to an area of low moisture, and that's what causes things to dry. So when I lived in Utah, I used to oil paint a lot. I don't so much here, first because I had little kids and oil painting gets messy, but secondly, it just takes way too long to dry. And I like to do a lot of layers and texture. Now this actually, if you want to leave this and just let it dry, that would make a really interesting texture. But I really wanted to do my yarn. And you're gonna get some mess on you. That's okay. We've got baby wipes. If you need one, just raise your hand and your volunteer can get one for you. Hopefully my phone is still recording. You don't have to do string. You can do whatever you want for texture. I just would probably start with this one because your volunteers are gonna have to go. And these other ones you can kind of do in your classroom on your own. Maybe this is something your teacher will let you keep in your desk and you can work on it. Say you get done with a math assignment early, you need something to do. But I just want you to get used to using these terms: line, shape, form, value, color, space, and texture. So that way when we talk about art and artists this year, that you can explain, well, instead of saying, I just like the way it looks, well, what specifically do you like about the way it looks? Do you like the way that the shapes are in there? What do you like about the shape? Some of you from last year will remember that we did warm and cool colors with your handprints at the beginning of the year. So we'll talk more about color again. But your handprints, that was just another quick intro to art assignment. Just something to get you going at the beginning of the school year. Hopefully you all had fun making your favorite summer memory picture for the fundraiser. Excited to see what everybody comes up with. Bet your parents be excited too to get your artwork on a mug or whatever they decide to do, and you'll get your artwork back too. They don't have to buy something if they don't want to. It's just to help out our art program. So this is actual texture, meaning you could feel it if you were allowed to touch artwork in a museum. Sometimes you are allowed to, sometimes you're not. It depends on what the artist says. And you might need to add some more glue in between here. See where I thinned it out? I actually thinned it out too much, so now it's starting to dry. So I could go back in and add more glue. But again, you don't want to add too much, otherwise it'll get goopy. And goopy art takes forever to dry. See how sometimes I accidentally move my string? It's not anything to be stressed out about. Just fix it. It's okay. It's okay if art is not perfect. It doesn't have to be exactly the way you imagine it in your head. I've been doing art since I was 2 years old. I have a picture of me when I was little, and I was painting with watercolors at my little high chair, and you know, I still make mistakes, so sure we want the final product to look nice, but just do your best and have fun with it. And not everybody's gonna like art, and that's okay. We just want to give you some different experiences where you get to try new things and, you know, figure out who you are as a person as you grow up. So you're not gonna like everything in school. Some of you might not even have strings. Some of you might have paper. I think I'm gonna go ahead and stop that right there, and I need to grab my scissors. Now you'll have smaller scissors in your kit. If you don't have scissors actually at your desk, some of the younger grades might not. You might need to raise your hand and ask for some scissors. Still recording? Still recording. 19 minutes in, that's not good. Okay, so I think the next thing that I want to do is get some crumpled up paper, put it on the outside of the chicken. It's okay to leave some empty space. We're going to talk about that with space. Just make sure you do it intentionally. I actually do want to fill this up with glue. I kind of like this texture. that the glue is gonna make. The scratch, it looks like chicken scratch, right? So scratchy little texture. So I do need to fill this up with glue. Remember, artwork, if you're gonna have empty space, you need to have it be intentional. That means on purpose. Otherwise, it just looks not finished. Okay. Try not to spend, you know, try not to spend too much time. I spent quite a bit of time on that. But if your teacher's gonna give you some extra time, then I guess it doesn't really matter. It just depends. You guys are busy. You gotta learn all your subjects. You can't just do art all the time. Even though that would be fun for me. Now this extra paper I would put back in the bin so that it can be used by other students. But again, I want to try to fill it in so it looks like I did it on purpose. See how it adds that nice texture? It just makes you want to touch your picture. I want to touch it. Or like Bluey, I want to touch it. I guess Bingo said that, huh? I don't know, can I say that on our little art channel here? I don't want to get sued by Disney. Let's see. Okay, now that just looks sloppy if it's not finished. So I'm going to keep doing it until it looks finished. I need to add more glue. I'll add more glue. Okay, there's my texture. Ta-da! Should I add a pokey eyeball? Just for fun. Boop! Okay, so there's my texture. Now, if your teacher says time is up, you can move on to these other ones later. But I'm gonna go ahead and do my line one. I'm gonna scoot this over, make sure nothing's in the way so it can dry. And this kind of had a line in it. Do you see how I use the line in there? Try different kinds of line. Try dotted lines. You could do thin lines. Do really thick lines. Don't push too hard with the pen. Just go back over and do another line for thick. And one of the principles of design is repetition and rhythm. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm gonna go and I'm going to repeat what I did. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. One, and if you want to use your ruler and be really perfect, you can do that too. 2, 3, 4, and then I did a dotted line. And I did a straight line. And then I did a thick line. That's the beginning of my thick line. That's the end of my thick line, and I'm going to fill it in. So if you want to, you can flip these over. You can use some of these. Emphasis, we are emphasizing the chicken. movement. I twisted it to make it move a little bit. Unity, the way that I use Unity is by using kind of the same color palette or the same technique within a painting. Contrast is going to be lights and darks, and balance, these are going to be centrally balanced. You can do asymmetrical balance, radial balance. So asymmetrical is where if you cut it in half, it doesn't look the same on each side, but this looks about the same as that. So there's round here and round here, and so it balances out even though it's not exactly the same. Let's show you. Symmetrical balance would be if these two eyeballs were exactly the same on either side. All right, I'm gonna keep using my ruler here. Okay, now my chicken is not done. I need to do the background as well. I'm using a different type of line so that the chicken is the emphasis. Line usually can direct your eye towards something in art, make you look at it. And you can do something simple like this if you want. And remember, don't go off into the other side, because that's going to be for shape. So this is one work of art right here. Ta-da! I have my chicken. I'm going to work on shape. I'm going to outline this. I just like the outline in black, but that's okay. So, shape, if you flip this over, it's a two-dimensional line with no form or thickness. So I'm not going to use line to explain what I'm doing here. I'm going to use 2D shapes to create my silhouette. So I might do this, fill this in, and you don't have to keep using your black marker. You can use something else. So let's see, I'm going to choose, and I'm actually going to erase this a little bit so it's so that you can only see, barely see the outline. And this is for shape. Maybe I'll use this shape and then fill this in. Shape is really important when you're learning how to draw, because everything, as you can see, this chicken can be broken up into different shapes, and so it makes it a lot easier to draw. When I'm drawing a face, I will look at it and see where I can do a circle, where I can do a triangle or a rectangle, just to kind of help me break it up a little bit. Like this could be a triangle right here. Boop. Okay, except I'm gonna use a different color so you can see it a little better. Let's do this metallic pencil. Here's a triangle. Okay, and do some more black. And let's do an oval right here. And I'm going to do a rectangle here. Rectangle there. And I like trying to keep things similar in color. Might use a pastel. You'll have a kit of pastels in here. You might not have all the colors. And you want to blow off the dust. Pastels can be quite messy. So if you don't want to get messy, we have gloves and we have smocks that you can wear. And again, make sure you don't have any on your hands so you can wipe it off. Okay, save this, you can use it for later. But look, there's another triangle right here. And let's make this triangle really stand out. Let's make it blue. So art is about learning how to see the shapes and make them into something. I'm going to keep using the same colors. Okay, now what shape does this look like? I would say it's almost a bunch of little circles by each other. I'll use this colored pencil again. I don't have to come in, see? So there is my chicken made of a bunch of shapes. If I want to leave the background white, which I can, again, it's better to fill it in with something so it looks like you did it on purpose. And I know you can't really see this on the video, but you can see it in person here. You can tell that this is filled in, that I meant to leave it white. If you need to sharpen any of your pencils, please use the pencil sharpeners we provided, because your regular school pencil sharpeners don't work great on colored pencils. Okay, so I'm going to outline, put my pencils back. This goes here with my other metallics. I'm going to copy the word shape. Form. Form is a lot like shape, but it looks three-dimensional. So for forms, you're actually going to use, instead of a square, you would do a cube. Instead of a circle, you would do a sphere. So in order to make this easier on yourself, I would again kind of erase and there's two ways of doing this. Let me show you. You can use forms, cubes, cylinders, spheres, etc., like this person did, or you can use shading to make it look three-dimensional. So it depends on what you want to do. You can see this person used different forms. The ice cream, they use different forms. This person did different forms and shading. So to make my life easier, I'm just going to use these same kind of shapes that I already did, and even the same colors. But now, instead of making them look two-dimensional, I'm going to use shading to make them look three-dimensional. So I don't want to fill this in with my marker. I want to grab a colored pencil. And I can decide, okay, I want my light coming from over here, so this is going to be the lightest, and this is going to be the darkest over here. So I always leave like a circle of where my light's going to be. And I fill it in, and the darkest is always furthest away, and then you just slightly lift your pencil up as you get closer. And a lot of times you don't want to have a harsh line like that, so a lot of times I need to go back in and just push, 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 push even harder as I get back there. Does that make sense? So if my light's up here, it needs to be up here again. And if you're in the older grades, you don't need to outline your shape. You could just use your pencil. It'll actually look more three-dimensional if you don't outline it. I just did that so that way the kindergartners and some of the younger kids can see what I'm talking about. Okay, now square, how do you do that? Well, turn it into a cube. Now, with the cube, you want one side to be very light, so I'm going to say the top is the lightest. I'm going to say the front is a medium shade, and this side is going to be the darkest shade. And that is the simplest way to shade a cube. Now I'm going to do my triangle, and I think it was with this pink color. And I'm going to show you what I was talking about where you don't actually outline it. So I'm just going to very lightly draw it on here. Okay, I want my highlight come up here. I don't even know if you can see this, but then you start filling it in the darkest area. And that's if you want to do it like flat and you want it to just look three-dimensional that way, or you can go this route where you add like a background dimension to it as well. But for this one, I just want to show you this way. I think this one is probably going to be one of the trickier. Okay. So if you want to do that. That makes it pop out more. All right, now we're gonna do that circle or oval. Ovals I like because it's easy to shade, but I'll show you again. I'm not gonna do the harsh line on the outside. And I'm gonna start with my darkest, furthest away from the light source. My light is up here. Fill this in just a little bit, and I'm never going to fill in where it's white. And it helps if you go in kind of the same shape too. Go in that same shape. Let me show you something really fun. If you have a white colored pencil, this is where you can color in the white. But it blends the rest. So if you don't have a white colored pencil, don't do it. If you do, great. I'm gonna do same thing here. I'm gonna leave, that's my highlight right there, okay? Remember I did a pink circle over here? I'm gonna do dark, here, get as light as I can up here. And again, if you have a white, go back in, see how I filled in that hole, and I would. Fill that in. It looks more three-dimensional. Let's say I did blue marker. So this one, again, marker is hard to show value. I'm going to make this as dark as I can, and then you can use little tiny dots to fill that in to make it look like it's sticking out more if you want to do that. Okay, it's kind of hard to do forming these little ones, so I might even just leave it there. And then circles again. I'm just filling in the back side. Whoops. See, I accidentally colored it all the way, but that's okay. So you can see how this might take you extra time. Ta-da! Again, not leaving the background. I'm gonna do mine silver this time. And then normally in art, you don't want to leave anything just floating in the air. See how I'm coloring kind of in the same direction? I'm trying to, if you go like this and go like this and go like this and go like this, it's going to look messier. So I try to go in the same direction. Okay. So there is form. Value is going to be pretty easy. Value is how light or dark something is. See, I should have used my ruler. I wasn't paying attention. Looks nicer if you use a ruler. Do as I say, not as I do, right? There we go. All right, I'm gonna write value. Okay, value is how light or dark something is in art. So you can see even in this colored picture right here, there are still darker sections and lighter sections. Just to emphasize value, we're gonna use just plain black and white and gray, or just by pushing lightly. You can use a pencil, you can use a charcoal or a pastel. I'm going to use a charcoal or a pastel, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to use value to make the chicken pop out a little bit more, but I'm going to do the opposite of what you're thinking. I'm going to leave the chicken white, and I'm going to put all the shading. This is hard because these charcoals and pastels aren't little, they're big and have big flat surfaces on them, so you gotta kind of use the corners. With pastel, it doesn't matter so much if you're doing the same direction. It's more with colored pencils and markers and crayons. I like to go multiple directions just to make sure that it's filled in. Okay. So I'm doing my darkest right next to the chicken, so I have to push harder. Don't push so hard that you break the pastel. See how I'm holding the pastel really close? Some artists will tell you not to do that. I just like to because it gives me a little bit more control and prevents my tools from breaking. Okay. So now I'm going to go out and push less hard. So see, I'm holding it further back. That helps me push it less hard. Just don't want any harsh lines except for the one on the chicken. So I go back in and kind of darken it up a little bit as I need to. Make it look like it goes from light to dark pretty gradually. See how that makes it pop out? If I wanted to, see how messy this is? If I wanted to, I could go back in and smudge it, but I don't like to. I like to just leave it. I keep blowing it off because you want to get all the extra dust off that you can. And you want to dry your hands. All right, color is made up of different properties. A property is just a different tool of art or a different attribute, like a different thing that art has. So you have hue, which is basically what color it is: red, yellow, blue. Then you have value, which we talked about. You can have light red, you can have dark red. And then intensity is a little different. It's how much pigment there is. So you can see this is a more intense black. This is a lighter black in value. I guess it would be the same thing as brightness. So look here. That's kind of probably hard for you to see. Here we go. These are 3 different intensities of the same color of red. This one's the most intense. This one's probably the least intense. So that can also be, there's tone, brightness, and purity of a color. If a color has white added to it, that would be a lighter tone. If a color has black added to it, it would be a darker tone. So what I want you to do, there's also warm colors and cool colors. You've got red, orange, yellow. Are these going to be warm colors or cool colors? They're going to be warm because they look like a fire. You've got blue, darker blue. You could do green. Let's see, here's a good green. There's another green that's a little better. And violet. Okay, blue, green, violet. These are going to be your cool colors because they remind you of, well, honestly, the Pacific Northwest where it's really cold, or water, things like that. Okay, so you can do warm color scheme or cool color scheme. So far I have, that's kind of a green and pink. I'm doing a lot of greens and pinks, so maybe I would do, which is actually red and green because you use white to make pink. Anyway, I'm gonna do cool color scheme, sorry. And because I'm running out of time, I'm going to just use my markers to do color. Okay. So I'm coloring same direction still. You don't have to do your color one like this. You can do it however you want. If you have watercolors in your packet, you might want to do some watercolors. See how I'm going back and filling in the white space? I don't want to leave it looking messy. Cool colors on the outside, and I think I'm going to do cool colors on the inside, and then I think I'm going to do warm colors on the outside with colored pencil. So that way you can remember warm and cool colors. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but you could do all pink if you want. It's nice to have the color wheel on here. Okay, so those are my cool colors. Now I'm going to grab my warm colors. I'm going to do red, I'm going to do orange, I'm going to do yellow, and I'm going to use line instead of filling it in. So you can use some of the other elements if you want. Just make sure that this one's definitely color. You can tell. See how messy this chalk gets? And that's okay if you get it smudged. You should have an eraser. You can try to erase. It might not erase all the way. But that is what the hairspray is for. If you're going to use pastel and you want to wait for it to dry, you can spray hairspray. In art, we use fixative spray, but it's more expensive, so we just use hairspray at the elementary level. So there you go, there's my color. Okay, space is the area around or within or between images or elements. Space is a little bit of a harder one to understand. So the way that I'm going to show space in this one, I'm going to show foreground, background, and middle ground. So how am I going to show that? Well, my background, I'm going to make let's do some green mountains in the background and hills. Okay, I'm going to fill this in, and I don't want it to be super intense or dark because it's further away, helps show perspective. So I'm going to use all the other elements that we talked about. We talked about color. I'm going to use color. I want my mountains to be kind of green in the background here. Now, I want my chicken floating up in the air. So I'm probably not going to draw any kind of a shadow under him. Let's say he's in a wheat field. So I'm going to put some of the wheat in front of him. This is my implied texture, right? Doing grass. Now, wheat isn't all the same color yellow. So I might grab, if you have, you can use a marker, add in some different. You can grab a pastel. You can even just color over it, and you can still see underneath some of the marks that you made. This time I am going to smudge it a little. I'm going to add some shading into my mountain here. Make it pop a bit more. Okay, then I'm going to add, let's do a blue sky. This is not a Pacific Northwest chicken. This is a blue sky kind of chicken. Let's see, where do they have wheat fields and mountains? Maybe this is like a Colorado chicken, right? They see the sun a lot more over there than we do over here. Okay, so I'm still keeping my background lighter. This is my foreground, that's my front, and that is gonna be more intense. I'm gonna push harder because I really want those colors to pop. That's where you add more detail as well. So this one you might want to spend more time on it too, making it actually look like a chicken, okay? So if I wanted to, I could go back in and kind of erase the pencil marks. Erasers don't really erase colored pencil very well, so I know that I'm safe in just kind of erasing. I say kind of a lot, sorry. I know I'm safe in erasing colored pencil. So I'm going to flip this around just so I can concentrate on the fact that this is a chicken. You want the chicken to have some texture, right? Baby chicks have little wings. Got little eyes. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. This is what I wanted to do with mine. Okay, starting to look more like a chicken already. Okay, I'm not doing the same direction on my chicken because I want to go the direction the feathers grow. Just to give it some more of that texture that we talked about with the grass. And I might even add a little bit of brown to my grass so that the chicken will stand out a little bit more. I did the scratches in front because this is in front, the chicken is in the back. The chicken's more in the mid-ground. Let's see. I don't have a picture of a chicken to look at, so I'm just guessing on the colors. I have to look at pictures when I draw. The chicken's probably not going to be this yellow either, but I'm just drawing with what I have in front of me. I'm not using black because black isn't usually found on natural things. You can see all the little lines in your hand. They're not black, they're actually probably a darker red, maybe a darker purple, depends on your skin tone. So because I'm adding so much detail on this foreground here, it's going to look more like it's being pushed forward. Oh, I love a good sharp pencil. So on the beak here, I'm using what we talked about with value and form to make it look like it's sticking out a little bit more. Same thing with the feet. But I like to mix my colors. Be careful not to stick your hand in the glue. I'm left-handed, so my hand gets all over everything. If you're left-handed, it is probably easier to work from left over. Sorry, wrong way. From this way over. If you're right-handed, you want to work this way over, so that way when you're coloring, you're not smudging all of your other project. Wish I had a picture of a chicken to look at. I'm using my phone to record though, so I don't really, so that's okay. We're just having fun. Okay, I'm gonna do, I like to use cool colors for shadows too, because it makes it pop out just a little bit more. See how much that sticks out now? I know chickens don't have purple eyes. You know chickens don't have purple eyes. Well, I don't know, maybe they do. Does anybody have chickens? But that purple or violet just makes it stick out a little bit more. blend. Blend, blend, blend. Ah, broke. That's okay. We'll sharpen it. Luckily, I have another one. Haha. You probably want those. You'll have to stop and sharpen it. Sorry. So I'm gonna do circles on here. Circles for the highlight. Makes it pop a bit more. Let's see. The chicken needs maybe some more brown back here. Others kind of look like fur, so oh, this is magenta. That's okay. It makes it pop more. All right. Anyway, that's about what you're gonna get from me because we're in a hurry. Now, if I look at it, it still doesn't pop out very much. I probably need to add even more brightness to here, and then I would need to fill in this space a little bit more. That's probably because I used marker and there. I just want it to stick out. And I also did not do a shadow for the chicken. If the chicken is upside down, this part of the chicken is going to be darker. That's why I rotate my art a lot, to take a look at it and make sure. Sometimes it looks fine and then I twist it around and I realize it needs something else added. Okay, so now let's say I wanted to add a shadow in there. Remember how I said I like to use cool colors for my shadows? And the chicken is floating in the area. So I'm going to just add some of this color in here for the shadow. Ta-da! I'm going to call that good enough. So we have, oh, I need to fill that in. Space. So remember, foreground, midground, middle ground, background. Background is light, middle ground is mid, foreground is the darkest. You have line, shape, form, value, color, space, and texture. You need to return these to your teacher, return all the supplies. Please put them back the way that they were handed to you, if not better. If you have one that is broken like this, please sharpen it before you put it back in the container. So I'm going to actually leave this one out, so remember to sharpen it. That one needs to be sharpened, that one needs to be sharpened, that one needs to be sharpened. Goodness, lots of them. Okay, so keep them all separated, throw this away, close up your glue, and enjoy.